evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, that was loud. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. It's a very, very special evening for us. It's been a long time since we see each other only as electronic specters, only as sort of ones and zeros projected on screens. So it's such a fantastic feeling to see so many people coming together to celebrate art, to be together and to just enjoy good art, enjoy good photography, just sharing this fantastic feeling that has missed for so many months. I thought this day would be my happiest, but I must say from the outset that I'm very disappointed. Very, very disappointed. And you know why? Because I see so many people that don't have a glass of wine in their hand or a plate with food. This is a time of celebration, so there is food everywhere, there is drinks, just let's have a great time. Because that's all about, sharing art, enjoying art. It's having a great time. It's seeing each other again in this, feeling of togetherness. That is all about enjoying art. Because tonight is a time of celebration, but not only one celebration, 3 celebrations. We are happy to celebrate tonight the reopening of our institute, but a new institute, I would say, totally refurbished. We haven't lost time during the pandemic, so we thought it would be a good time to do a little bit of refurbishment, to be a renovation, optimization of the space. And the work that crowned that process of renovation was, of course, the opening of the new exhibition space, the gallery that we named after the greatest Romanian artist, Constantin Brâncuși, as is pronounced in English. And we are very, very excited by the fact that after so many years without a gallery, we are again able to promote Romanian artists, Romanian American artists, here in the heart of Manhattan, and to provide this platform in a place, New York City, that is so competitive and sometimes so unforgiving with young artists, with emerging artists. So I think this space will be put to good use on behalf of Romanian or Romanian American artists. All this transformation, big transformation of our space, was really, really hard work, and it was teamwork above anything else. I can juggle a little bit later, okay? So it's teamwork, like here. So it was teamwork, and I want to take this opportunity to thank my team who has worked so hard, who has put the energy, the time, the imagination, the ideas, so that we have this new space, this transformed space, this gallery. And I want to single them out. I'd like to start with Luisa over there, my deputy director, and also the curator of tonight's exhibition, the co-curator, Raluca. Raluca here was doing, everything. Gabi he used to be here. He's probably downstairs. Gabi, who is our administrative officer, who supervised all the works. And Gina, Gabi's assistant, who's somewhere over there. It's not about. I'd like to say that I'm very thankful to all these people. But at the same time, I'm so happy that it was a team effort, and everything that is here, it's shared by this team that has offered this event tonight as well.
And how about your wife, Tatiana?
Yeah. Always very supportive. I would like to say that this effort was also made possible because we had a fantastic company that worked with us. And I was very, very keen in having them tonight. And I'd like to thank Adrian and his beautiful wife from A1 Construction for making this possible. They did a marvelous job, and trust me, they did it on a completely competitive price. You know, I don't want to say that too often because you know it's something as a gift. As a Romanian American, he said, I want to consider it as partially as a gift, so that you have nice events here. And I kept this promise, Adrian, and thanks to you, we have this place. Dziękuję bardzo, chciałbym podziękować za pomoc i za współpracę. Będziemy współpracować razem, myślę. That was in Polish because Adrian's wife is Polish. Yeah, I gotta exercise my language skills. So it's a celebration of the restart of our in-person project, of our in-person programs, and it's also a celebration of this new transformed space. But the event that crowns everything, the most important of all this celebration, is the retrospective, the first retrospective of and not the last one, of course, of a wonderful, extraordinary, fantastic photographer, Viorel Florescu. We couldn't have thought of a better way to restart the in-person program, to re-welcome people at the Institute than this beautiful exhibition. An exhibition that was set up in partnership with Howland Cultural Center in Beacon, New York, and with Bronx Documentary Center here in New York, and was co-curated by Onesa-Lieberman and by my colleague Luisa Pinto. We are very, very proud to reopen with this amazing exhibition. And we are also very proud to restart with two guests that have redefined the way we look at historical events, the way we perceive reality, because through their lenses, through their frames, they really educated our view and our eye as well. And I'm happy to have Viorel Florescu. But I'm also happy to welcome Jon Naso, who's also a famous photographer. Together, I must say I'm a bit overwhelmed because these guys together are 4 Pulitzer Prizes. Can you believe that? You know, I'm climbing this stage before. I forgot my Pulitzer upstairs. Oh no, I don't have one. Forget about it. No. That's, but maybe someday will be a Pulitzer for public and cultural diplomacy, and maybe we will qualify. But this will be in another life. So again, thank you very much for coming. We wanted to observe all these CDC regulations. We wanted to be safe, we tried not to put a lot of seats because we wanted to keep the distance, but in the end we weren't that successful. But without further ado, let's get started. We're going to have a conversation about the art and life and works of these two gentlemen. Jon, I would start with you by asking. You have worked with Viorel a lot. How would you describe him as a photographer and as a colleague?
Well, Viorel and I have worked together in probably 4 different newspapers at different times. Our paths crossed, and probably over 30 years. And he's a unique talent, inspiring at times, I know, even for me. He's helped dozens and dozens of journalists that I saw him work with, and not to try to create them and to follow his path, but to help them find their own way. And that I thought that was something that was very special about him, and drew me to him in the beginning. But before I met him, I was, like many photographers back in the 80s and 90s and today, I come to New York to try to find a job. And back at that time, newspapers, believe it or not, had tryouts for photographers. So you would try out for a week, and if you did well, you might have a shot at getting hired. You might have a shot at getting a contract for so many months or whatever. And so after a few portfolio reviews, I finally got my tryout at a paper called Newsday. And so I went to work the first day, and I had a few assignments, and I chased this down. And I get home from work that day, and my wife asked me, well, how did it go? I said, well, I went pretty good, And I come back to New York the next day and look at the paper, and I see my picture and my name's under it, and I'm all excited. And then I see another picture that was a lot better than anything that I shot, and I didn't even know that was going on in the city. And underneath it said Viorel Florescu. And I said, oh, okay, I don't know who that is, but apparently he's trying out the same week I am, So, next day goes by, the same thing. Next day, look in the paper, and oh my God, look at this picture, So it gets to be like Thursday, and Donna is my wife, she's here tonight, she'll tell you. She said, well, how are you doing? You think you're gonna get a job? And I said, no, there's not a chance. And I hadn't met him yet. I said, but there's this guy, Viorel Florescu, that every day he's got a better picture than me, So anyway, needless to say, he got hired, and that got him his start in New York. And later on, I would get a job there and at Newsday, and we became friends. From that point on, we worked together for quite a few years. So, yeah.
Very, very interesting story. Viorel, I'd like to ask you, how did you start with photography? Why this urge to take photos, to take photos, to take images?
Well, I was a little kid, stupid kid in Romania, and I wanted to be a cinematographer. And well, I had a couple of other friends involved in the same thing, so we started using photography, trying to figure out how to tell a story using images.
Your microphone closer. Thank you.
Okay. And that was the whole thing. I just wanted to be a cinematographer. That didn't work too well, and I ended up getting a job as a journalist, photojournalist in Romania. But it took me only about 6 months to realize that was terrible. That photojournalists in Romania in the 70s meant to praise Ceausescu, and I didn't like it. So my job lasted only about 6 months. I left, and I left Romania too. So here I am.
Jon, as a photojournalist, of course you need technical abilities, you need passion for the job, but do you need a certain temperament in order to be a good photographer working in crisis situations, in war zones, and so on?
I don't know that I'd say that you had to have a certain temperament. There are certain qualities that are probably would cross over, many different, because different photojournalists are successful and they have different personalities and somewhat different approaches, but there are certain characteristics that they share. Patience for one. But yeah, I would say that
Curiosity, maybe.
well, yeah, curiosity, and they have to. I think that to get yourself involved in a lot of these stories, you have to care about them, and you have to educate yourself about them, and try to learn something along the way. So all of those same qualities that go into being a good journalist, I think. You have to have a desire to survive. Yeah.
You survive all right, also survive to tell the story, and a good story. These guys are amazing. We were so fortunate to have a chat with them yesterday, and it's amazing stories. It's endless array of stories. Viorel, you have worked in some of the most dangerous places on earth, war zones, calamities, you name. Is it worth dying for a good photographer?
No. But the goal is to get out alive. I guess I achieved that. I'm here.
It's early.
I'm still here, and I will be here. It's photojournalism covering wars. It's one of the worst jobs you ever want to have. You shouldn't do it. But if you do it right. Ask around what to do, be able to come back. And some people here that are still doing it, and they're doing it right. I can't see you now, but you know who you are, and you're amazing. But the young guys don't do it. It's a bad, terrible job.
Sometimes while preparing this exhibition, we thought we were in the war zone, but you know, we survived as well. Viorel, could you tell us some stories, some difficult times you were in, you know, some episodes that were really threatening, you know, you thought that was it?
Well, bad places to cover stories. Probably the worst for me was covering the revolution in Romania. Not because I afraid that I was going to die, but because every single moment I was, should I drop the goddamn camera and help and be part of it, was terrible, was gut-wrenching every moment I spent there. But, well, talking about fear and looting, and well, I've been through some bad situations. Going in Sierra Leone, trying to reach a guerrilla group, and going there on a plane that was manned by a Russian crew that were gun dealers. They were exchanging guns for diamonds. And I didn't know. They were making stops and dumping guns and getting diamonds and, in the middle of woods. And said, what the heck? We have to go there. And they were pulling guns and said, get on your seat and shut up. And when finally we got there, I said, no way we're gonna go back with the Russians. We're gonna drive back, which was such a stupid idea. Because every 5-10 miles were checkpoints, and we didn't know who the heck was there and what they want. So terrible, terrible. And after hours and hours of driving, we ran out of gas. With half an hour before the curfew, right between the military and the guerrillas. And we didn't have a clue if we're gonna survive. We finally made it to the army, and we had a meeting with the guy there was no light, it was candlelight, and the guy had dark sunglasses, and you couldn't see him. He was asking questions, we kept answering, and he kept asking more and more questions, and finally he said, okay, I'm gonna give you a car to take you to the city. And that was about midnight. We got in a truck full of soldiers with guns, and we left. We didn't know that every hour the password at checkpoints were changed. So when we reached the first checkpoint, the password expired. So we suddenly were on our knees, surrounded by guys with guns, asking who the heck we are and what the heck we want at 12 o'clock in the morning and in the middle of the woods. Finally, about 3 o'clock, after many other checkpoints with expired password, we made it, and we had an ice cream. So here we are.
If you make it to the end, we'll have a glass of wine. No, maybe not. Jon, I'd like to ask you, is a photojournalist someone who lives only in the moment and for the moment, or is there a way to plan a shot in advance or to plan your work? How does it work?
Well, to some degree, you can plan in so much as you may know that there's a demonstration. If you're trying to tell a story about a political event or a struggle for some kind of power, there might be demonstration, or it could be related event like a funeral. I remember in Belfast, we were covering the troubles there, and there was a funeral, a bomb maker had blown himself up, and so all these things are related to the story. So you can look for things and you can try to plan in that way. But I think when it comes time as far as shooting, it's really your training that kind of pulls everything together, and you're looking for those moments that are going to and those juxtapositions that are going to be able to tell the story in that single picture. You may have some ideas, but you do go into it always, I think, better serve yourself going into it with an open mind, and try to be observant, and sometimes you get lucky and get a good picture.
Luck does play a part.
I think so, sometimes. You do make your luck, I'd agree with that, but I think, some days it just, I have to say that some days I think I made a lot of what I would call the right decision, and I you can come up empty-handed, and then the other way around too. But as you develop your method of operation and everything, those things you become more consistent. So.
Viorel, how would you describe the dynamic between the photographer and the reporter? Because you have worked with a lot of reporters, and somehow I've heard a tension there. It's a certain dynamic. How would you describe it?
Well, if it's any tension, then it's over. It's not going to work. You're not going to do it. One of us has to go. The whole point is that to establish a very good relation with the person you are working with, because sometimes your life depends on it. So you have to be like a tango dancer. You have to know the steps. Otherwise, you're gonna break your legs. And well, talking about breaking legs, I have another story. Stupid one, but funny, and don't do it. 1994, a day before US invasion in Haiti. Exuberant journalists waiting there for months and months, going crazy because nothing was going on. We decided to have a soccer game. So I'm in. The only thing is that there were some British journalists that are rough. I broke my leg. So, well, I went to the hotel, and it was, oh, we have to replace you. I said, no way, I'm staying. The person at the desk came and said, what's going on? I said, well, my leg. It's funny. No problem. We don't have a doctor, but we're gonna solve it. So, next thing I know, here comes a mambo, which is a voodoo priestess. Half an hour later, my leg is white powder, all wrapped up in stuff. Well, pain is gone. He's telling me that sometimes I walk like a chicken. I don't believe that, but next day when the Americans came in, I was hopping around with help of some of my friends, but I was able to cover the story. But do not play soccer.
Now a question for both of you, and then maybe we'll open the floor so people can ask questions as well. It's something because you have had fantastic careers, you have seen a lot of things, you have been showered with a lot of prizes. What do you think makes the documentary photography endure? Sometimes it's, for newspapers, for the, for the moment, for that particular time. But when you look at this exhibition, and when I look at your photographies, I see that there are photographies that are relevant today, that are beautiful today. Yeah. What do you think? It's for both of you. What do you think? You can start, John, and then we'll pass it to you.
So it's funny you said that, because that's exactly where I was going. Because when I walk around this gallery, and some of the work I've seen over the years, but we're on different assignments, all over during that period. And certainly a lot of it I hadn't seen. But almost any section that you go to, the pictures are really timeless, and I think that's. When you have those elements that it seems like, and even the subject matter, if you look through it, Afghanistan is relevant today, Haiti is relevant today, Romania is relevant today with what's going on.
It's very different.
Yeah.
It's as transformed as this place.
Very different, but there's a historical element to it that is timeless. That is timeless. And all that subject matter, and even later on in Viorel's career, when I was director of photography at the Record, the first thing I tried to do was to lure him to come over. Well, New Yorkers never want to go to New Jersey, You might as well be going, Yeah. So, but eventually, he did come, and he created a body of work there too as well. And if you look at the themes in all the pictures that I do, and it's nice to see them on the wall like this, and in one place where you can really look through them. But it's the common theme to me is that it always seems like the effect on the average person of political struggle people struggling for power and how the average person is squeezed or affected somehow. I see that reoccurring, in almost every area. But actually, I forgot the question.
What makes documentary photography endure?
Yeah, endure the timelessness of the picture. You know you have it. When it's just that picture, it could be today, it could be that's one thing. And I'm sure my friend here will have another take.
Well, you don't plan. Everything is in front of you, and you just have to make sure that you get the right moment. And if you're gonna know if it's the right moment immediately, and that's gonna stay with you. Regardless if it's a historic event or just the usual day in the life. You just work it. You just try to make sure that what's in front of you will last. If it deserves to last.
It's probably something timeless about something of our basic humanity, something that we all feel, that can make a photography taken 20 years ago speak so vividly to us today. So I'd like to open the floor. Our general counsel here.
Good evening. It was a great pleasure to be invited to attend to your exhibition, and I have a question. I have two questions for you, which were for me very, how shall I put it? We have a Romanian word, but very in America now. So, there's one in Haiti with an officer with a Uzi in his hand and with a dead body at his feet. And I say you have a story of that. And the second is here on the floor with the kids, the soldiers, the child soldiers in I think it's Sierra Leone with the M16 in his hands.
Oh, the kid.
Yeah, the kids.
Thank you.
Kids with the guns.
Philippines.
Yeah. The one in Haiti, that was probably the photograph that really launched my career. That was first free election in Haiti. Terrible day. Most of the journalists were staying at the hotel, and the Tonton Makuts, the military bad guys that didn't want to have any election happen, they were circling the hotel, firing at anybody who was trying to get out. And lucky I had a hired translator, a local guy who was a local journalist, and ended up with a great photographer later on, Daniel Morel. Probably some of you know of him. And he was with me. We heard some fire trucks going on, and he told me that something bad happened. And I said, we have to go. So we jumped in the car and followed the fire trucks. We ended up at this school, there was an election place, and we ended up seeing there was a massacre. There were 33 people who were hacked and killed and shot. Some of them, they were still alive when we got there. And well, that ended up the first free elections in Haiti. But Danielle said, and we were there, I was taking pictures, and she said, we have to go. I said, no, are you crazy? This is the major story of the day. He said, no, you don't get it. They're gonna come back. We got to the car, and the moment we got in the car, the bad guys came back, and they chased us for about 5 miles, shooting at us. I am here, so I'm good. The other one is some little kids in Philippines. That was the Bangsamoro Liberation Front, Muslim. Well, at this point they're bad. At that time, they were just people who want to be free from the Christian stupidity. But they end up on the bad side of history. And well, that was part of a story that we were doing on children soldiers, and they were terrible, terrible places with little kids armed to the teeth, just being part of a stupid story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, you helped me, or you made me a real Romanian today.
Now your mother do it.
Any other questions? Yeah. Yes, sir.
I was glad that you said the right thing about it. First, I'd like to start with Jon. We worked together. Tell us something about Lincoln Hospital, South Bronx.
Wow. Lincoln Hospital. That was a pretty amazing story with Jim Mulvaney, who's actually at that time editor of the New York Daily News, who did that for us. So Lincoln Hospital, we were doing a story about asthma. And I mentioned before being interested in things that you do. At that time, I just learned my daughter had asthma and stuff, so I was like reading about it and everything, and then this came along. So one of the things that we did was we spent the night at hospital, Lincoln Hospital, where they had asthma patients coming in throughout the night. It was just an incredible night full of kids coming in heaving. At one point, a guy comes wheeling him in. I said, "What's going on?" He has a gunshot wound to the chest. They brought him in from, and he said, like, I was with the reporter when we were talking about working with reporters. And we're like, we felt like we should chase that. This was pretty amazing, And it's like, no. We're here with kids with asthma. But what we found out from pursuing it through the night, that we found out that a child that had passed away, like just days before, and through that we were able to track down his family and follow it up. But it was a pretty impressive series. It ran 4 days in the Daily News. I'm not sure just where you were going, what you wanted me to point out, but it was a good local story that a newspaper was really committed to, and I think under your leadership, we did probably had I think there was 4 of us maybe working on the 3 reporters and myself, And we probably spent all 2 months for that 4 days of reporting. I don't know if newspapers commit to those stories anymore, maybe the Washington Post. But,
And speaking of 2 months, Viorel and I were in Bangladesh.
Oh, yeah, think about that.
We had never met before. I was a correspondent. He was the photographer. I was not his writer. He was not my photographer. But we went around, and in the early days, Bangladesh was a bad place, and he kept saying, it's not as bad as Haiti. You know nothing. I've been to Haiti. What do you know? Until one day, that place over the river, over the sewer. You remember those pictures, Viorel?
Yeah, we had, first of all, we had a guy, our translator,
Hassan.
that, by the way, he just contacted me a week ago. He lives in England now. Anyway, we hired him, and he told us that water in his house was up to his waist every day. And after he spent a month with us, with the money he made, he was able to get a better place that had water only to his neck. Yeah. Terrible. We had in the same Bangladesh, we had another translator that was taking us on the rowboat to the area under the Himalayan, where they were diving in a river, pulling out rocks, and they were taking a couple of miles on the boats, and they were paid something like $1 a day, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but anyway, the guy we hired to take on the boat, he was able, after he spent time with us, he was able to buy a cow, and that totally changed his life because he was able to sell the milk, and he had a constant income, and he was made for life.
Amazing. Yes?
Hi. I just had some questions about your Afghanistan photos. I'm wondering, you can hear?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering about your Afghanistan photos and how you feel seeing the photography that's coming out of Afghanistan now, and if there's anything that feels nostalgic about when you were there, and just maybe some things that remind you of your time there in 2001.
I think it's for you. Yeah.
Afghanistan. Good question.
Well, saying picture now that reminds you.
Well, the Afghanistan story, it's killing me. It's a sad story, but it's a big but here. We went to Afghanistan. I'm talking Americans now, and not only Americans, Romanians too, stupid. We went there for a good reason, to get Osama bin Laden, period. Nothing else, nothing to do with bad fate for a woman, bad anything else. It's a bad place, but we went there to get Osama, and we did get him, and that was the point, to get out. There were mistakes staying there, and mistakes. And to me, the story to Afghanistan summarized perfect in my experience there. I got in Kandahar 2 days before Northern Alliance American troops got there. I got there 2 days before. And we got a little house. And we hired 3 guns, 3 guys with Kalashnikovs to keep our butts safe. And after a week, our translator came one morning and he said, well, all night long, these 3 guys that you hired to protect you were discussing if the Quran will allow them to rob us. And next day, we said, it's time to go. And we did. And that's what's going on with Afghanistan. That's why the goddamn military didn't fight. They were probably discussing if the Quran will allow them to do anything else. And the US didn't have any business to free the woman there, the gluten, or anybody else. The Americans were there to kill Osama. I'm sorry for the woman, Afghani woman, but it's the same for the woman in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, in Syria, and the other places. So it's not Afghanistan. Our thing with Afghanistan was Osama and nothing else, period.
We'll take another one because time is running out and I pity those who are standing. For us it's much easier. Yeah?
Hi, thank you for sharing those stories. Very impressive. I have a question about the Romanian Revolution photos. In particular, there you say something like, you point out the fact that you're a photojournalist and the job is to observe and not intervene. I was wondering, how do you sort of weigh the decisions of intervening and helping out directly, actively, versus documenting and just observing? And the question is for both of you, though it's related to the Romanian Revolution. Thank you.
Well, you're definitely there to observe, but you get in situations that are so overwhelming sometimes. It doesn't have to be in Romania or Afghanistan. I mean, 9/11 was one where journalists were down there for first day or so, the ground was still hot, and your shoes are melting on the, all of a sudden, the raise their hand and, everybody be quiet, I think they hear something. They were looking for survivors. And it's really sad when I look back now, because I never saw a desk or a lamp or anything. It was just like dust. And it took me a while to realize, I said, well, I don't even see any furniture or anything here. It just says, how could anybody have survived? But they were looking those first couple of days and listening, and they would silence everybody. And then when they thought they had somebody located, they would form a bucket brigade and start moving dirt out from where they thought they heard things. And what were you going to do? You had to get on the brigade, so you're going to miss pictures for 30 minutes or whatever. And you just do it. I think you just decide. You just know when you're there and say, I'm not going to, you photograph it for 90 seconds, and then somebody grabs you and says, come on, you need help. And it's like if somebody was drowning, I think you're a human being first at that point. You just do what you gotta do.
Well, definitely it's a hard decision. But you are there to do your job. So that's the priority. You are there to take photographs. Again, Haiti. I have a picture there of a person being shot. And the shooter is right next to me. And 15 minutes before, the guy had the gun pointed at me, mumbling something. I speak little Creole, so I wasn't able to understand everything, but it wasn't good what he was saying. Anyway, I was there to take pictures. I took pictures. Next thing, we jumped, and 4 of us, journalists, we picked up the guy and we were trying to take him to the hospital to save him. And I was holding the guy with one hand, and with the other hand, I was fending off another bastard who was trying to stab him. We were able to take him to a car and the car took him to the hospital. I don't have any clue if the guy survived or not, but I think I did my job. My job was to take pictures.
Ladies and gentlemen, Viorel, Jon, for wonderful stories, extraordinary photographers. Jon, I think you're next on those walls, after yeah, we don't discriminate,
Now you are.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the evening continues. You don't have to go away. I'm sure that you can have the opportunity to talk to these amazing photographers. I think there are still food, drinks. This is a custom here at the Romanian Cultural Institute with this Romanian wine. It must flow. That's the most important thing. So thank you for coming. Don't go away. There is still plenty of food and drinks. Let's celebrate. Let's celebrate Jon. Yes, Jon.
I just wanted to say thank you to Viorel for asking me to come. I feel honored. I think he just wanted help with his captions, really.
Subscribe to our website. There are other interesting events at the Romanian Cultural Institute. We want to see you again.